Well, if you haven't heard of the simulation, you should Google it. The idea is that there's no real external world. Rather, we live in a virtual world, more like a video game. So are you guys ready to make some effing noise? I love you all. Bishop Berkeley, you say matter is fake. John Locke's view on substance is that substance is the something we know not what that underlies properties. So, for Locke, the substance is the thing that underlies the secondary properties of the apple, the color, taste, and smell. You see the apple, it's made up of those little gray dots. The color of the apple is a property that inheres in the subject, the substance. The flavor is something that inheres in the substance. And the smell of the apple, the scent, is something that is a property of the substance. Notice that for Locke, the secondary properties we experience don't match the actual properties that cause them. So you can see in the picture of the apple that the apple's shape and size match the idea the apple causes in us, the perceiver's mind. But the color, taste, and smell are perceptions without a match in the world outside the perceiver's mind. So the apple, I'm just having it made of the true substance of the apple, is represented by those gray dots. You can imagine those are like swirling atoms or something to update Locke. But something about those swirling dots causes us to perceive the apple as red, appley flavored, apple smell. All of those things are properties of that substance that we don't experience directly. We indirectly experience the apple itself, but directly we experience the sensations that the apple itself produces in us. Locke and George Berkeley both agree that the secondary property ideas are only in us, not in the objects. Colors, tastes, and smells are like an allergic reaction we have when we encounter certain entities in the external world. So the particles from the ragweed are causing this guy to feel sneezy, but the ragweed itself does not feel sneezy. That can't be a property that ragweed has. Well, then in the same way, just as the sneezy property is not in the ragweed, neither is the yellow in the ragweed either, or either. The ragweed just stimulates us so that we color code it and experience it with the yellow of our perceptions. But the yellow of our perceptions is not in the plant itself. So what is the perceptual variation argument on secondary qualities that John Locke and George Berkeley agree upon? Well, here's the argument. Premise 1. If warm and cold are really in the water, then the same body of water can be warm and cold at the same time in the same place. Premise 2. But it is contradictory to say the water is both warm and cold at the same time in the same place. So the conclusion is therefore the warm and cold sensations are only in us, not in the water itself. And see, the guy on the left, he just jumped in the water and it's freezing. Whereas the girl on the right has been in the water 2 hours and it feels like warm bath water to her. But the water can't be both warm and cold, so that means the warm and the cold is just in us. It's not really a property of the water. The water has particles in motion, we can again say, that causes us to have the warmth sensation or the cold sensation. Here's another example of perceptual variation. The OJ tastes deliciously sweet unless you took a bite of pancakes or brushed your teeth before you took a swig of the orange juice. So the sweet that you previously experienced wasn't in the orange juice, The sweet is in you. And happy Valentine's Day. Berkeley's great insight. Berkeley noticed something that John Locke did not. And this thing that Berkeley noticed had a huge impact on the direction that, well, at least Western philosophy would take. Now, normally, you have to join my Patreon account to find out what this great insight was. But because you're taking my class, I'm going to give you a freebie. Berkeley's great insight was that the perceptual variation argument applies to primary properties, size, shape, and motion, just as much as it applies to those secondary properties of taste, smell, scent. Well, Desert O'Day Castle, that's the castle that little Georgie Berkeley grew up in. When Berkeley was a young boy, they were always after his lucky charms. This delicious... No, alright, I'll quit, but this is actually from somebody else's YouTube, but this is the castle that Berkeley grew up in as a little kid. So this is his birthplace of Berkeley. Wouldn't it be fun? Hey, spring break or Christmas break, we could go visit this thing. Now look, the perspective of the person who's up close and looking at the castle, it looks huge, right? We're in that perspective right now. So if you're looking at the Desert Castle in Kilkenny, where Berkeley grew up, it looks tiny to the person viewing it from the aeroplane. So you can barely see it. Looks about the size of a little ant. By the way, fun fact, Kirkwood does not get very many international students from Ireland. But the frickin' castle looks bloody... Oh, I've lost it now. Okay, so I'll just do it without an accent. It looks enormous to the person standing by it. Wow, it looks more nouns. I think I was tired when I made that slide, but yeah, it looks more nouns to the person. Hey, that could be a new thing like fetch. You guys just need to start saying more nouns a lot. Like, that's not only lit, it's more nouns. That'd be perfect. So we saw perceptual variation of primary properties with size. Here we see it with shape. The quarter looks round from the perspective of a crow flying directly over it if it's lying on a table. But it looks oval from the perspective of a person standing beside the table. But it can't be both perfectly round and oval at the same time. So the shape is not in the quarter. The shape is in us as well. But since secondary qualities were judged not to be in the substance due to perceptual variation, then primary properties, since they too suffer from perceptual variation, must not be in the substance either. Berkeley's conclusion: there is no mind-independent substance that properties exist in. Oh, well, I guess the video's over, but that doesn't really explain Berkeley's view completely. Hey, if you think this video was more nouns, don't forget to like and subscribe. No, I'm kidding. But... You lived in the desert castle and ate lucky charms.